So I got myself a Tobii eye tracker 5. I have no previous experience. I don't know what previous generations are like. I literally have only had this one. And the reason I have it is, I mean, by my standards, not strange at all, but by most people, it's kind of a weird thing to do, I suppose. Because we were due to get a demonstration of eye tracking technology. Because part of what we're learning through this degree is not only the information and the theory and the research, but also what we can use in our final projects. So we might want to use VR like we did last semester. We might want to use eye tracking. I've actually done a study that has eye tracking involved after the lesson. But I didn't wait until having the lecture before ordering this. I ordered it the night before and collected it when I was on the way home. And, set it up, installed it. That's the one downside to it. The installation and setup is a bit of a nightmare. You have to get it all set up. You plug it in. Most of the time, Windows will find the drivers for you. But it also requires the Experience app, which is delivered through the Microsoft Store. There is a very long-winded way that you can actually get around that, but when I tried to install it that way, it didn't work, so I just uninstalled the drivers and it eventually worked. And it's fine, I think, for the most part. One of the great things about it is I can now use the Windows Hello feature, because, if people are like, oh, why are you putting your face out there? Hello. So my face is already out there enough. I'm not worried about the government having it. But yeah, so I can use it. I can literally sit here with it plugged in and it will make my computer unlock. Brilliant. It knows my face. But also, the main reason I got it, for gaming. At the time, I've put it to one side because I was getting too chilled out by it, and I was really losing focus. But I was playing Euro Truck Simulator 2. It's something that I play for periods every so often when I need to just chill. It's very good for meditation, actually. But like I say, it was working too well. I was getting too relaxed, and I was kind of dozing off during journeys. But I could turn my head, and the camera would move. So I could look to see in my mirrors. I could look to see for traffic, stop signs and the like. And just that extra level of immersion. I have tried to play Euro Trucks in VR, but I felt it was too close. A lot of people have the problem that the physics of the cab don't match, obviously, what you're doing because you're just sat there normally. Unless you've got some kind of rig that can actually replicate that, you are going to feel that disconnect, and that can give people a lot of the sort of VR nausea. It's not quite as easily mitigated as having a fan blowing on you to replicate the idea of movement. How do you do it? Do you just keep bouncing in your seat alongside the viewpoint? But it is one of those things where with eye tracking, I don't have to worry about that. I'm not so immersed. So I can use the mirrors, look down, to see the route advisor and that kind of stuff. And it was really good. But I noticed that over the years, there's a lot of games I'd seen that, had a Tobii eye tracking menu. The best bit about Tobii, though, is they've got a list of games that work. So any of the games that I've ever played and own that have the features, I've been reinstalling and playing through. I haven't got through the entire list yet. I've played a few, so I have an idea. One of the things I do love is in Assassin's Creed Syndicate, which is one of the most recent ones I've gone through a bit. I can sort of look around the screen and the lighting will change. It'll focus the lighting in that area that I'm looking at. Also, when you're in Eagle Vision mode, it'll tag as you're looking around. Deus Ex Mankind Divided was a bit of a weird one because you could loot or choose your loot box, if you will, like the person you're looting by looking around. But that one felt a bit floaty to me. I don't know, I could work and spend ages in settings to try and make it make sense to me, but I just couldn't gel with it, and it wasn't worth the effort. I wasn't enjoying it that much. Like I say, I'm still part of the way through the list. I think for driving games, it's great. But also, yes, for action-adventure games where you can sort of look around and spot things. One of the things that a few games I've played have is hiding the UI. So your health bars and things like that will disappear, or will fade, should I say. They won't completely disappear, but they'll be faded. So, they're in your periphery. But if you say I've got, a map in the bottom left corner of my screen, I can look down and it'll come into focus. If I want to check my health, which is on the opposite side, I look down to the right and it's there. But as soon as I look forward, it's faded, so it's not intruding. And I can kind of look around the screen. One of the things I didn't like with Syndicate is that also works in the or like in the more sort of in-engine cutscenes, you can move around the screen. So if you're like me, and you like subtitles just in case you miss something, but even worse if you're actually hard of hearing, it will follow your gaze to the subtitles, which means the screen's sort of bouncing up and down a lot. That was giving me a little bit of an uncomfortable feeling. That's the one downside. Even turning down the sensitivity didn't really mitigate it as much as I would have liked. One of the things that I didn't like as well from an earlier version, and thankfully this didn't carry into Syndicate, was the idea of the camera turning when you look. That was in Assassin's Creed Rogue. So when you look to the edges of the screen, the camera will turn as though you're moving your thumbstick, your right stick, to change the camera point. Which, again, it was a bit floaty, sometimes like I just wanted to quickly glance at the side of the screen, and all of a sudden the whole viewpoint's turning. And I even actually with that one, I did play with the sensitivity. And yeah, it wasn't great. But this isn't an issue to me with the eye tracker device. This is implementation, because Euro Trucks didn't have that. It didn't go over the top. And like I say, in Syndicate, it was fine. It was just the bouncing in the cutscenes. So I've got to play a few more. There's a lot more on my system that I want to play through. But I think in general, it's very immersive. It's really changed how I play games. And in fact, playing games that don't have it feel weird, because my instinct is to look towards the corners or, to tag things and things like that. But it's not obviously going to work if that's not implemented. The other downside is it's not in as many titles as I'd like, because you do have to have an explicit license from Tobii. You do have to work in a certain way. But I do hope it's something that more, game developers will integrate. Like Square Enix and Ubisoft seem to be the ones who really have embraced it. But I think a lot more games could do it. I need to play something like Elite Dangerous. I think it's in that. Like the dogfights in that might be amazing, because I remember playing Star Wars Squadrons on the VR, and that was amazing to kind of look around and you're in the cockpit. But yeah, so overall, it's not a cheap piece of hardware. I will say that. But if you want to really engage, and immerse yourself in a game, but you don't want a VR headset for whatever reason, this is a good way of doing that. If, you've got perhaps certain disabilities, because you can use it in other ways as well. I've not really talked about that. But if I look at a section of my screen and press the Control and Shift key, I think I've got it set to, my mouse cursor will jump to that spot that I'm looking at. There's so many different applications. I know there's hardware out there that's more explicitly there for people who have mobility issues to use as like an on-screen keyboard effectively, just using their eyes or whatever. But that's it. There should be more of this, because I love accessibility in gaming in particular, because everyone should be able to enjoy themselves and explore new worlds and what have you. But yeah, I've gone on for quite a while about this and perhaps waffled a bit, because it's just, I'm still getting to grips with it, but I wanted to, maybe put this out for people who are thinking of getting something like this and maybe need a bit of convincing. If you're thinking about getting one, get one, because you clearly want one. But that's all I'm going to say about the Tobii Eye Tracker 5. It's not sponsored at all. I just wanted to give it its full title. So until next time, as always, thank you for watching and take care.